Welcome to Hooked on Wooden Boats, podcast episode number 212. I am your host, Dan Matson, aka Wooden Boat Dan. If you can't do it, a few people can, although not very many. This is the world's first podcast fully dedicated to celebrating the art, craft, history, tradition, and romance of wooden vessels around the world. Thanks for joining me today, folks, for the podcast. I'm recording this on October 3rd, 2018. But who knows, maybe you'll be listening to this on October 3rd, 2028. You never know. Today's featured segment is an interview with Doug Brooks. Doug is a master Japanese boat builder. He's studied in Japan under master boat builders there. He's learned the language fluently. He's done not internships, but apprenticeships under these master Japanese boat builders. They have a very unique way of building boats. And so Doug and I explore that and talk about what he's up to and his new book and everything. So I would encourage you to stick around for the interview. I did not work on my scamp this week. I was in California to visit 3 of my college buddies and hang out at Newport Beach, which was really fun. And there's a few wooden boats in the bay there. I look across at all the sailboat masts and occasionally see the wood-colored mast, and so that's kind of fun, but didn't really do anything with wooden boats while I was there. But it was fun hanging out on the beach and getting warm. I did on the airplane ride home on Sunday write down what I have left to do on the scamp and put in some estimated hours, and it came up to 180. And I'm like, first of all, after I did it, I realized there was a few things I forgot. Secondly, I thought, I got to do this in less than 180 because that's a lot of time. And I don't know if I have that much time, but I do need to get the boat done. So anyway, we are going to move on to the interview with Doug Brooks. So take it away, Doug. Okay, it is September 7th, I believe. No, is it the 6th, Doug?
6th, I think.
The 6th. It's Thursday, right. The festival starts the 7th. We're at Port Townsend at the Port Townsend Wooden Boat Festival. Doug, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much.
We met upstairs in the Discovery Room. Doug was preparing for his talk with his AV stuff and hooked up. And so, Doug, you're from Vermont.
That's right.
Okay.
Originally from Connecticut. And I lived on the West Coast for 15 years, right out of college. And twice, back in the late 80s and in the early 90s, I brought boats to the Wooden Boat Festival here. So this is my first time here since, I think, 1993.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's been 25, 26 years.
Yeah, and the festival and Port Townsend are unrecognizable.
Completely different.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. Beautiful.
Cool. So your specialty is Japanese boats. So I guess my first question is, how did you get into that?
Well, I was in the late 80s, I worked at the Maritime Museum in San Francisco, and I worked in the small boat shop there. And I was building boats and working with the curator, curating boats in the collection. And I left the museum in 1990, and my college roommate, when I was at the University of Oregon, was from Japan. And he had been inviting me, ever since we graduated from college, to visit his native country. So in 1990, I put on a backpack and took a youth hostel membership and went over to Japan. And on that first trip, I managed to meet several boat builders. And I got hooked because the boats are completely different in terms of design and construction. But I think the thing that most intrigued me was in meeting these boat builders, what I discovered was they were all elderly. They had no apprentices, but most importantly, the entire craft tradition was an oral tradition, meaning there was no documentation whatsoever. In fact, most boat builders worked entirely from memory. And so It was obvious to me that the writing was on the wall that having lost a generation of apprentices, this entire craft was was poised to disappear. And so I went back in 92, I went back in 94. I specifically went back to interview one boat builder I'd met in 1990. And in 1994, on my third trip, he invited me to be his apprentice.
Oh, wow.
And so in 1996, I apprenticed with him. And that has led to... Go ahead. That has led to now 7 apprenticeships since 1996 with Japanese boat builders. My most recent one was last year.
Wow.
My teachers have been between 76 and 86 years old when I worked with them. Mm-hmm. And of my 7 teachers, only one had ever taught another apprentice. So I'm the sole apprentice for 6 of my 7 teachers.
Wow.
Yeah.
So quick question. Were you into wooden boats or boat building before that trip to Japan in 1990?
Like I said, in 1990, I had 5 years under my belt working at the Maritime Museum in the small boat shop.
Okay.
Yeah.
So were you building boats there?
Yes, we were building replica boats in front of the public, teaching workshops and taking care of things in the collection. Yeah.
Okay, so between 1992, you say, and now you did 7. You've done
between
7
96 and 2017, I've done 7 apprenticeships.
Were some of those with the same person?
No,
all different people.
All different people. Yeah.
So tell us about Japanese boats.
Well, yeah, so Japan is an island nation, obviously incredibly dependent on the sea. We don't think of Japan as a maritime culture because we don't have a history of long-distance exploration by the Japanese. In fact, for 250 years, the Edo period, Japan completely closed its borders, and anybody who sailed away from Japan was put to death if they returned to the country, the Edo era period of exclusion. So Japan's maritime history is a very inward-looking one, but it is incredibly rich. I mean, the Japanese consume more seafood per capita than any nation on earth, and so there is an amazingly diverse tradition of boats, mostly small boats, mostly small inshore fishing boats. And then in the Edo era, a very interesting design of coastal trading ships. But again, we don't think of the Japanese the way we think of the Portuguese or the British or the French, sailing over the horizon, because they didn't do that. But so anyway, and my most recent apprenticeship was actually with my first river boat builder. My first 6 were all sea boats. And so it was finally time to study with someone who built river boats in Japan. So it's a very tradition. Japanese boats, to really, to put it in a broad brushstrokes, they're mostly hard chine. They're built with very wide strakes, very thick planking, because there's little or no internal framing in a Japanese boat. Yes. So the boats, for a given length, the planking thickness of a Japanese boat is twice as thick as a Western boat. But there's very little inside, so the strength is in the hull itself. And the Japanese developed some really remarkable techniques for putting these boats together. So one of the ones I'll be demonstrating here at the show tomorrow is Japanese boats are built without caulking. The wood...
Are they carvel planked?
No. They're a hard chine planking, over hard chine boats. And all planks, all the seams are fit with a series of special hand saws and some other techniques, which I'm going to demo tomorrow.
Okay.
And the boats do not leak upon launch. It's really quite remarkable.
Is it a butt joint essentially between planks?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a butt joint between planks.
But they're not caulked. They're so precise.
They're so precise they do not leak upon launch. And so boats are caulked, but only when they get old and they begin to loosen up, and they're always caulked from the inside.
Really?
Not from the outside.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So for those listening who don't know what caulking is, it's not what you put in your bathroom
No,
tub.
It's not a goop out of a tube.
Tell us what it is.
So in the West, caulking was traditionally made of cotton, a strand of cotton fiber that you drive into a plank seam to fill the gaps and make it watertight. In Japan, the boat builders use the inner bark of the cypress tree, and that's pounded and braided into a loose rope, somewhat like strand cotton caulking that we use in the West. But of course, it's a totally different material than cotton.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep.
So what size boats have you apprenticed on?
So most of the boats I've built have been small inshore fishing boats. They range in size from, well, my first apprenticeship, I guess I'll describe it. I apprenticed with the last builder of what's called the tub boat. And this is literally a barrel. It's literally an oval-shaped half barrel that is still used to this day for fishing on Sato Island in the Sea of Japan.
Is that because of the capacity of your boat, basically?
It's just something that developed on Sato Island, and it's quite famous in Japan because obviously it's bizarre. It's kind of like the Irish coracle or the Welsh coracle. Mm-hmm. Actually, if you look around the world, you can find a lot of bowl-shaped boats all over the world, but in Japan it's actually a wooden tub. And the Chinese had the same thing. They had a wooden tub. But I apprenticed with the last professional builder of those boats. So that's the smallest boat. That boat's just a little over 5 feet long, and it is literally coopering, traditional Japanese coopering.
What is coopering?
Barrel making.
Oh, okay.
Barrel making. So my biggest boat, the longest boat, was last year. I worked under the direction of an 85-year-old boat builder. He actually was too old to do any more physical labor. And so he told me, he said, I'm going to lay down the lines and the memorized dimensions, and you have to do all the physical work. And that boat was a cormorant fishing boat. And that's where the Japanese use birds on leashes to catch fish. And this has been done for 1,300 years in Japan. And now it's done for tourists. It's not a commercial fishery anymore.
Really?
But at one time, not too long ago, about 2 generations ago, it was still a commercial fishery to fish with birds. And it was invented in China, where it's been done for 2,000 years. But anyway, the cormorant fishing boat that I built was 42 feet long.
Wow.
Yeah.
So tell us about that boat, how it was constructed, what the shape was, did it have any sort of covering or cabin, how it was propelled?
Yeah, so the cormorant boat and all the boats that I've apprenticed with are just open boats. Okay, so yeah, and they range, so from the tub boat at 5 feet, 5.5 feet long, to the cormorant fishing boat 42 feet. Most of the other boats I built have been in the 24 to 32 foot range. Mm-hmm. And they're all open boats, except for one, they're all fishing boats.
Long and narrow?
Long and narrow.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, when I mentioned thick planking, there's a real limit to the amount of shape in a Japanese boat. Because there's just a physical limit to what you can bend the planking.
How thick is the planking on that boat?
I've built boats with planks, 1.5 inches thick.
Wow.
So this is really thick stuff. And it's all built with Japanese cedar, which is called sugi, a beautiful, phenomenal boat building wood that you can get in enormous pieces. And the other technique is that these planks, because there's no internal framing, or very little internal framing, these planks are actually edge-nailed to each other. And I'm going to demonstrate that tomorrow. So imagine you're not putting a nail perpendicularly through the face of the wood into a frame. There is no frame. You are carving a mortise as a pocket.
Almost like a pocket joint.
Like a pocket screw, exactly. And you are edge nailing these steel handmade nails and edge nailing the planks together.
Interesting.
It's very interesting. It's very interesting.
That sounds labor-intensive.
That technique clearly comes from China.
Oh, really?
And I have yet to find evidence that the fitting of planks with a handsaw comes from China, but it could. I mean, so much of Japanese technology, arts and crafts, and otherwise come from China, often filtered through Korea. The Koreans edge-fastened their boats with floating dovetails. Floating tenons. Where 2 planks would each have a mortise matching each other in the edges, and you would slip a floating tenon to pin those two planks together.
Oh my goodness.
So that could be the beginnings of what the Japanese did, or it could have come right through from China through Korea.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So on this 42-foot boat,
Yeah.
it's a hard chine boat. Is the bottom fairly flat then?
Yeah. So most Japanese boats, yes, they have a very wide plank keel. So most Japanese boats, a very simple cross section, a wide flat plank keel, two very wide garboard strakes at an angle, then two very wide sheer strakes set nearly 90 degrees.
Okay.
And that's it.
Wow.
Kind of like the Banks dory in a way.
So how tall would those strakes be?
Well, those
12 inches
strakes
or-
those strakes could be anywhere 12 to 18 to 24 inches wide, and they could then be composed of two planks that are edge nailed.
Oh, I see.
So what you do is you begin
before the
edge nailing before you then bend that strake to the hull.
So they naturally bend those, or do they do any steaming or anything like that?
They do not steam in Asia. They bend over an open flame.
Oh, they bend over an open.
You bend over an open flame. And that's done in China, Korea, and Japan. And what you do is you do that off the boat. You have the planks filed to shape. It's all ready to go. And then you set up props and sawhorses, and you get a fire going on the shop floor, and you heat that. You're splashing water on the inside of the plank to prevent it from charring. And you heat that plank, and over about a 90-minute period, 2-hour period, you force that plank into that shape, and then you leave it and let it take.
You put it on the boat, or you have
No, you've got it propped. You've got it propped and bent.
Prop the correct shape.
Yeah, and there's your setup next to it. It's the garboard that you have to do this to. And then you come back a day later, 2 days later, you take the props away, that plank goes completely back flat again, but it's been pre-stressed.
Yeah.
You rush it to the boat.
It has a memory.
It has a memory. You rush it to the boat. You bend it into place with props, with ropes, with whatever you can do, because Japanese boat builders don't use clamps. Everything is propped from the shop overhead to the floor to the side walls. It's a forest of props. Bend it into place and then nail it in.
Do they use any rope at all for holding stuff
sometimes
together?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Spanish windlass. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Which is really a cool technique.
Yes. Yeah.
It's really like, first time I saw that, I'm like, wow, this is like genius.
Yeah. I should, if it's okay, I should say that anybody interested should go to my website.
Okay, yeah.
DouglasBrooksBoatbuilding.com.
Yeah.
And you'll see all my Japanese boats. And at the bottom of every page on my Japanese boats is a link to my blog, because I didn't start blogging until my 5th apprenticeship. So my first apprenticeships go back to the era of slide film and VHS. But so I just digitized.
That's my world.
I just digitized some of my early video, and I'd like to. One of my goals is to get a YouTube channel together and put some of these techniques up on YouTube. So stay tuned, or email me with encouragement. If you don't write down my email address, if you Google Japanese wooden boat building, I'll be the first.
You'll be at
50
the top
hits.
of that, yeah.
And anyway, go to my blog under my About page. You'll find my blog. You can look up some of my boat building projects, and you can go through the blog and see the process step by step.
Okay, so you've done these apprenticeships in Japan. Are you building and selling boats in the U.S.?
Yeah, I work for. A lot of my boat building has been kind of public interest. I do boat building demonstrations for museums. I teach boat building. I actually have a class called Building the Japanese Boat that I've taught 3 of the last 4 years at Middlebury College in Middlebury, Vermont. That's been a very popular winter term class. And I'm developing a short course, like a week-long workshop in Japanese boat building that I'd like to approach organizations to try to sponsor and host that workshop. I write about Japanese boat building. I've published in Wooden Boat Magazine and Classic Boat in the UK and Kaji Magazine, which is Japan's biggest boating magazine. And 3 years ago, I published my fourth book on Japanese boat building. It's called Japanese Wooden Boat Building, and it covers my first 5 apprenticeships and also has a chapter on Japan's only traditional shipwright, who has built 4 replica ships. And that book is available from my website. Please don't buy it from Amazon. The only place you can get a signed, inscribed copy is from me, and you will help support this research. So go to my website and you can buy my book. And I build boats for private clients.
Okay.
Interestingly, last year I built 4 Japanese boats.
Wow.
I went to Japan and I built a boat for a Japanese garden in Takamatsu City. Then I came back to the United States and I built a Japanese boat for a Japanese garden in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And then I went back to Japan for my apprenticeship, building the cormorant fishing boat, the 42-footer. And then I came back to the U.S. and built a Japanese tub boat at Lowell's Boat Shop in Amesbury, Massachusetts,
wow.
which is a
The Dory
museum.
shop, right?
Yeah, the Dory Shop. Yeah. So I built a Japanese tub boat
Very
there.
cool.
Yeah.
So you're fluent in Japanese?
I am. What I tell people is my Japanese, my general Japanese, I'm intermediate speaker.
Yeah.
And when I'm talking about boat building, I'm fluent.
Okay.
I'm beyond native fluency.
So just in case somebody's listening that's Japanese and understands the language, say something to them in Japanese right now, if you would.
どうぞよろしくお願いします。私の名前は Douglas Brooks。私は船大工と研究家と作家です。
Okay, so what'd you say, Doug?
I just said, you begin any talk in Japanese or with dozo yoroshiku onegai shimasu, you should tell this to all your podcast people, because what that literally means is, please be kind to me. You say that to the audience. Japan is a culture obsessed with politeness. So I said, please be kind to me, audience.
Yeah.
And what can they do to me, though? I'm on a podcast.
Yeah, right.
And then I just said, my name's Douglas Brooks, and I'm a boat builder, writer, and researcher.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So do you do this for a living? I mean, has this been your income, or tell me about that?
Well, now your listeners can. Now your listeners, my head is falling to Dan's shoulder, and I'm going to sob for a little while. No, so I my research in Japan has been mostly grant funded. It is the hardest thing I do, is raising the funds to go and do this. It takes, to give you an example, in 2015, I went and apprenticed with the last boat builder in the tsunami zone. When the tsunami struck northern Japan in 2011, one of the things that I knew was that in traveling around Japan, that coastline had more wooden boats than any place in Japan.
Wow.
And they say that the tsunami destroyed 90% of all watercraft. So in addition to the enormous loss of life, there was an enormous loss of material culture. And so in 2011, I realized I need to go and document at least some piece of the boat building heritage of that region. Mm-hmm. And I knew a boat builder, and I began corresponding with him there, and he was on board with the idea. And it took 4 years to raise the funding. But I did it. And in 2015, I went over to Iwate Prefecture, and I took an American woman who had been born there. I took her with me as an apprentice, because that's another direction my research is going. The boat builders in Japan are really now aging out. 2 of my teachers have passed away. All of my teachers are inactive. They're too old to work.
Are they passing this legacy on to others to continue
No, there
the
is
tradition?
nobody. No, there is
Really?
nobody
The people
else.
aren't
There is nobody else.
interested.
I'm the only person I know engaged in this kind of research.
Wow.
And I need to define this. There are maritime historians in Japan. There are curators of maritime museums in Japan. But I am the only person I know who is actually documenting the craft itself. Okay? Museums are collecting boats. Museums are maybe gathering artifacts. But nobody is recording the craft itself. So that's my work.
Do you have hopes that people here in the U.S. or other places in the world will build using this method?
Absolutely.
Is that what
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And what I would like to do, what I would love to do, and I think it's possible, I would love to start a boat building school in Japan. And one of the beauties is I can teach in 2 languages. So I could have a collection of apprentices from Japan, Australia, Great Britain, Canada, elsewhere, and I think Japan is ready for that now. I think there are a lot of young people in Japan that would like to do this kind of thing. But you have to remember this. This is a Western prejudice of ours that, oh, you want to learn boat building? Find a boat building school. Buy a book. Listen to a podcast. Go onto YouTube. You have to understand something. If you go to Japan and you pick a craft, making kimono, and you ask 100 Japanese, where do I go to learn how to make kimono? I bet that 99 out of 100 of those people will look at you and say, you have to find a master.
Really?
It's not on YouTube. It's not in books. There isn't a workshop, and so
wow.
You have to understand that the crafts in Japan it's really remarkable. They've been sustained by a master-apprentice relationship, and it's all the crafts and most of the arts. I like to tell people this. I live in Vermont, population 600,000 people. Vermont has more furniture schools than all of Japan. There are only 2 furniture schools in a nation of 130 million people. And those 2 furniture schools, the oldest one is 25 or 30 years old. The idea of teaching a craft through a school is a brand new idea in Japan.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But the flip side of the apprentice system, which I would argue created craftspeople of enormous skill, mind-boggling skill, that system was incredibly fragile. Because as Japan became a wealthy nation, it lost a generation of apprentices. And just as you need masters, you need apprentices. And so I've met, in my travels around Japan, I've met and interviewed about 50 or 60 boat builders. The youngest boat builder I know is 78 years old. I have a grant request in right now to get the funding to go apprentice with him next year. Cross your fingers. I'll find out in November if I get that money.
How long are the apprenticeships, Doug?
So I'll get back to that in a moment.
Yeah.
But I wanted to just finish this thought. At 78, he's the youngest boat builder I know. Of the 50 or 60 boat builders that I've met in the course of my travels and research, I bet those 60 men taught 6 people.
Oh, wow.
So the craft is an upside down pyramid.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I say that I apprentice with boat builders, and I say that because in Japanese, there's really no other word for it. I'm a deshi, an apprentice. And they call that learning environment an apprenticeship, tote seido. I was with my teachers for the process of building one boat. The typical Japanese apprenticeship was 6 years, unpaid. Now you know why there's no apprentices.
Yeah, really.
Right, unpaid.
Yeah.
And there's other reasons. I mean, these elderly men ran out of work.
Yeah.
Fiberglass boats put them out of business and that kind of thing.
Right.
But anyway, the apprenticeship was a brutal process. And so, yeah, but the flip side is I came into my quote-unquote apprenticeships as a skilled boat builder. Whereas an apprentice walked in at 14 years old knowing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so 6 years begins to make a little more sense.
I see.
Yeah,
Right.
Though it's interesting, none of my teachers gave me any credit for my previous experience.
Oh, really?
They all said more or less the same thing to me at the outset. They said you don't know anything. And in my early apprenticeships, I would say, but look at all these boats I built in San Francisco. And they'd look at me and say, well, that doesn't matter. They're not Japanese boats.
Yeah.
Which they had a point.
Yeah.
But then even in Japan, later, I was able to say to them, but look at all these Japanese boats I've built. And they'd just say to me, those aren't my boats, so you don't know anything. It's very interesting.
Yeah. So I'm just curious, are there some of the Japanese boat building techniques, can they be applied to other boat building methods?
Oh, absolutely.
Are there things we can learn to building boats the way we do here? I mean, there's a lot of ways to build them. What would be some examples of that?
I think there's some design things that are probably too difficult to get into.
Yeah.
There are definitely some woodworking techniques. The first thing that comes to mind, of course, are the tools. Mm. And, it's reached a point where, I now have a full set of Japanese boat building tools and a full set of Western tools. And I almost never, no matter what I'm doing, I'm building a Henry Rushton dinghy right now, an American design, and I just reach for my Japanese tools.
Really?
It's just kind of habit at this point.
The Shinto rasp is Japanese tool.
Yeah, not traditional. I've never seen that. I've never seen a Japanese boat builder use one of those.
Okay.
But that is a Japanese invention.
Yeah, so they have really fine hand tools.
Oh, the Japanese tradition of hand tools is pretty unparalleled. Yeah.
What about the Japanese whetstones? Is that
the water stones?
Water stones?
Those are amazing.
Yeah.
Those are amazing. And in fact, now that you mention that, my teacher in Tokyo, my third teacher, had a natural water stone that was mined.
Yeah.
And it was a beautiful stone. I was very struck by it. And it was the first time I'd ever seen one or used one. And one day we were talking at lunch, and I asked my teacher, where did you get your tools? Where did you source them? Whatever. And I asked him, I said, what's your most expensive tool? And he pointed to the water stone, and it was $1,400.
Oh, my goodness.
And I made a joke after that point that every time I pushed the blade across the water stone, it cost him 100 yen, or about $1, because of the cost of that stone.
Funny.
But, natural water stones, they range... They cost in the thousands.
Wow.
And professional woodworkers buy them.
Wow.
In fact, I think there's only 2 miners in all of Japan still mining water stones, and I met one of them 2 years ago. And last time I went to his website, his stones ranged from $750 to $7,500.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. But again, like the boat building hand saws, one of my teachers for my apprenticeship bought 2 brand new hand saws because he said that as an apprentice I needed to learn using the best tools. And I asked him how much they were, and he had one in each hand, and he said this one was $800 and this one was $700. But you have to understand, in Japan, to a professional, that's the commitment you make.
Were those pull saws?
Yeah, those are pull saws. Yeah.
Which is typically what they use.
Yes, they're all pull saws. And again, it's funny to come back to the U.S. when I see Japanese tools for sale here.
Yeah.
Because again, it's our prejudice. We're used to a manufactured, factory-built tool. And we have wonderful manufactured, factory-built tools. Yeah. But that drove the price down. Mm-hmm. And in Japan, there's still a tradition of handmade tools.
Wow.
But you got to pay the comparable price for a handmade saw. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, Doug, you got a book for sale. Tell us about that. You did a little bit briefly, but tell us a little bit more about your most recent book.
Yeah, so I was very, very fortunate. I got a publishing grant from the United States Japan Foundation of New York City, and I cannot thank them enough. I mean, I thank all of the foundations and private individuals who have supported my research over the years and believed in me, and that includes my wife, long-suffering, who has just really been my greatest supporter, and my wife, Catherine. That's a shout-out.
Yeah.
Who wasn't able to come with me on this trip.
Okay.
But anyway, I got a publishing grant, and I found a wonderful publisher, Floating World Editions. It took me a while to realize I was publishing a boat building book by a company called Floating World, and they're based in Monroe, Connecticut, and they publish books on East Asian arts and crafts, and just the perfect publisher. And Japanese Wooden Boat Building is the first and only comprehensive survey of the craft published in any language.
Wow.
I can say that with confidence. My 3 previous books were about individual Japanese boats I built. They were all published by Japanese publishers. One is bilingual. My first book is bilingual, English and Japanese. It's on building the tugboats of Sado Island. And my second and third book are published only in Japanese. My third book was self-published. And so, to your audience, it's probably interested in the English-speaking world. Japanese Wooden Boat Building covers my first 5 apprenticeships. The first half of the book is about Japanese boat building techniques, and then the second half of the book takes each of those 5 apprenticeships one at a time, and then I add a final chapter on that shipwright and the 4 traditional basically 18th century Japanese replica ships that he built.
So if somebody wanted to build a small Japanese boat, what's the best way to do that?
Well, they would. Well, they could start with my book. They should go to my website. They should look at all my pages on Japanese boats. I have drawings of all the boats that I've built. And my goal going forward, because I've really quite literally run out of craftsmen to study with. Yeah. My goal going forward is to try to publish short, focused how-to books on individual boat designs. And I am absolutely thinking of the amateur boat builder. And so I'd like to pick designs that are best aimed for an amateur boat builder who is interested in Japanese boats. Cool. So, and the best thing they should do is contact me. For sources of drawings and materials, tools, nails, and so on.
Awesome. Yeah. And what's your email?
DouglasBrooksBoatBuilding@gmail.com. That's also at the About page of my website. Again, just Google Japanese wooden boats.
And you'll come right up.
I'll come right up,
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being on the podcast today, Doug.
Oh boy, this went fast.
Fun. Yeah, I know it. Anything else you'd like to say before?
Well, I'd like to get it on record that you were going to buy me a cup of coffee.
Oh, okay.
So now the whole world.
It's like $2.50 now. It was 50 cents when you were here last time.
Yeah, that's right. Too bad for you.
Yeah, exactly.
No, please visit my website, and I've been thinking about putting a donate page on my website. If you believe in what I do, you can send me money via PayPal. I'm embarrassed to be so blatant about that, but definitely buy my book through me. That directly supports my research. Keep in touch, and I'm actually also trying to develop projects in Japan, building boats, where I could potentially take people over.
Oh, okay.
I was poised to do that this winter. I had a group of 5 people that were interested. They were all Americans, and the price tag just turned out to be too high for everybody.
Yeah.
But I haven't given up on this, and I'm actively trying to find venues in Japan, maybe through woodworking schools, maritime museums, universities, where we could set up a project and build a Japanese boat and involve Japanese apprentices, American apprentices, anywhere from the world. So keep in touch, and maybe get some grant funding so we can make that affordable to anybody.
Cool.
So,
all right. Well, thanks for being on the podcast, Doug.
Thank you. And anybody out there, I lecture, I teach, If you've got a venue where you live and you want to, sponsor me and bring me in to do a lecture or workshop, a demo, build a boat, I'm happy to talk to you. So get in touch. And Dan, thank you so much. It sounds great what you're doing with the podcast, and keep at it.
All right. Thanks, Doug. Have a good one.
All right.
Doug, thanks for doing the interview at the boat festival. I wish you the best with your boat building and preserving the Japanese tradition and with your books and everything. So thanks again for joining me. And folks, if you're not in the wooden boat game, you need to get in one way or the other, whatever it takes. It's really fun. Yeah, you can spend some money, but you don't have to spend a fortune. It's not like some of these people that say, oh, I'd never have a wooden boat because all I'm going to do is varnish it year round. No, that's not the case. Wooden boats are pretty fun. So anyway, if you would like to connect with me, my email address is woodenboatdan@gmail.com. You can leave comments on my blog. You can send me pictures. Tell me what projects you're working on. I'd love to hook up and hear what you're up to. So thanks for tuning in today, folks. I hope you have a great week. Keep the bright side up and the barnacled side down. Wooden Boat Dan, over and out. God bless.